guys, so I'm back today to make another tutorial, a breastfeeding tutorial, and this breastfeeding tutorial is about, sorry, every time my kids get on camera they start pulling these really horrendous faces. They get so excited seeing themselves on the screen. Okay, so this breastfeeding tutorial is about breastfeeding whilst pregnant, and if you can hear me above the child, a lot of people think that you can't continue breastfeeding when you're pregnant because, well, the number one reason is that most women's milk supply dries up or decreases when they're pregnant, which is a true fact. That is the case. But it's a myth that a woman's milk always dries up. Yeah. So it's a myth that your breast milk dries up completely, because that has not been the case with me. With any of my pregnancies, I've always been able to continue breastfeeding. So if you're a breastfeeding mum and you find out you're pregnant and you think, oh, I'm not ready to stop nursing yet, I'm really enjoying this nursing time with my little one, you don't have to quit breastfeeding just because you're pregnant. There's also a myth that breastfeeding whilst pregnant can cause miscarriages. This is not true. I mean, I've done a bit of research into it, and there's always, a connection between this person had a miscarriage and they were breastfeeding at the same time, so therefore maybe it was the breastfeeding that caused it, because when you're breastfeeding it does cause the uterus to contract. So it is possible, but I definitely wouldn't say that there's any substantial evidence that says that breastfeeding causes miscarriages. There's no scientific evidence for that at all. It's just a coincidence that it happened to happen. I personally believe that if you're going to have a miscarriage, you're going to have a miscarriage for whatever reason, and nothing that you can really do can prevent it, and nothing you can really do can cause it unless you're doing something that's actually dangerous to the fetus. So breastfeeding certainly isn't one of them. It's been throughout the ages. Women have always breastfed their children, often up until the age of like 4, 5 and 6 in some countries, and obviously continued to having many other children whilst breastfeeding. So we know that that's a myth. So yeah, this tutorial is really talking about the fact that you don't have to quit breastfeeding just because you're pregnant. You may have to stop because your breast milk may dry up, but that definitely isn't a dead cert. And I would say that if you're worried about that, that maybe that you can actually encourage your child to nurse more frequently, to encourage your breast milk supply to maintain or increase. So you can try that. Maybe you can start pumping a little bit after feeding your baby, just to help that breast milk supply. I've never actually done that with any of my children, but I think it makes sense that if you're worried that your breast milk supply is slowing, that you could do that. 2 seconds, baby. Yeah, so another thing is that sometimes the breast milk changes in taste. I've definitely noticed this with my children. In very, very early pregnancy, as in a few weeks after conception, for some reason I think it must take on like a rather unpleasant taste, because with both of my children, when I was pregnant in the very early weeks, they kind of were like going off the breast milk. Like they would turn their nose up at it. They'd go to suckle and then be like, like, what's that? But yet later on in, like, when you're say 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks pregnant and onwards, the breast milk must change into a really nice flavour, because I've noticed that my children want to nurse so much more, as if the flavour is just divine. Like, that's all I can think of, is that the flavour must be really nice to them. So you can expect that there might be some changes in your baby's appetite towards the breast milk, which might cause them to self-wean. There's no dead certs with breastfeeding, it's just go with the flow. So there are a couple of things that might cause you to have to stop breastfeeding, but I would say that with knowledge and with tutorials like this and other experience from other mums, because I certainly wasn't given any of this information from any health professionals. I've basically did the research myself and learnt through my own experiences. So if you, do your research and watch these kinds of videos, which I'm hoping are helpful to you mums, that you should be able to, when you encounter kind of problems like this, based on that information, you should be able to continue to breastfeed whilst pregnant. So that's the first thing. Some people might say, why would you want to continue breastfeeding whilst you're pregnant? Well, I think that's for a whole separate video. But this video is really a tutorial about how you can continue breastfeeding. And I'm evidence of that. I am currently 13 weeks pregnant. Have my little bump down there. And, a big bump. It's actually quite huge. But I'm always big. I always show really, really early. But it's my 5th baby, so it's going to be big. My son's just like walking around the room like staring at me like, why is she talking to herself into her phone? What am I doing, Danny? Is Mummy crazy? What should we go? You doing a trip over? Anyway, so Danny is 2 years old. I'm 13 weeks pregnant with baby number 5. I'm still breastfeeding, and I would say that Danny just is crazy for the breast milk at the moment. He is just in love with it. Like, he'd stopped nursing as frequently because obviously he's 2, so like he's on a full normal diet. He eats food just like you and I, eats everything we eat, and he has a huge appetite. So he doesn't need breast milk that frequently, and so he wasn't having it very often, and he actually got down to the point where he was having it like in the morning and at night and at nap time, if he was poorly, if he hurt himself, if you wanted to comfort him, etc. So it was very much like quite infrequent, the feedings were. So he very much slowed down with the nursing, and I was thinking, oh, he's going to like self-wean soon, or he's just going to slow down. I was quite happy about the arrangement. But recently, since I've been pregnant, it's like he is nursing non-stop. Like he's constantly asking for Bitty. Guys, we had to have a brief interruption because this one would not wait any longer. All this talk about Bitty was just reminding him how much he loves Bitty, and he was going crazy, begging. So yeah, this kind of proves my point that he's like kind of obsessed with breastfeeding at the moment. He just really, really, really wants to nurse all the time. And do you know what? It doesn't bother me. It really doesn't bother me, the situation. He's happy. It's not causing me any discomfort. I thought at first it would like really, the increase would like, make, playing with my mummy's hair, would like kind of make my nipples uncomfortable, make them sore. But in all honesty, in the first few weeks of pregnancy, when my breasts were more sensitive, it was a little bit ouchy. Danny! It was a little bit ouchy. What the heck? I'm just going to let him play with it. So I was just letting him, I'm just letting him like nurse as frequently as he wants. Definitely I would say my breast milk supply is increasing. But I think it started increasing before he started nursing more frequently. It just kind of happened. Because my breasts had been feeling fuller and bigger, as just because of the pregnancy, and then with him, what are you doing? With him like nursing more frequently, that's increased my breast milk supply as well. I haven't been doing any pumping, so I don't know how much it's increased by. All I know is there just seems to be gallons of milk there. That when he's nursing, he's like gulping loads, and there's just always milk like pouring out of his mouth, like down his cheeks, kind of thing. Kind of has like a milk moustache after he's done. So yeah, I'm feeling the letdown more than what I used to. So yeah, there's the proof. The proof is in the pudding, isn't it, Danny? Danny's 2, approaching 2.5, and he's happily breastfeeding. This is extended breastfeeding, and I'm just hoping to make these kind of videos to inspire other mothers who are breastfeeding not to quit at just 6 months, not to quit at just 12 months, because the baby has to have milk up until 12 months as their main source of nutrition. So after, obviously they'll be introduced solids at 6 months, but their main source of nutrition is milk until they're 12 months old. If you want to give them bottle, that's fine, but the point is that women who are breastfeeding and aren't using bottles with formula milk, you don't have to stop breastfeeding at 12 months, because that's the bare minimum. Really, the World Health Organization recommends breastfeeding for a minimum of 2 years. Well, a minimum of 12 months, and recommends it for 2 years, with the world average being about 3 to 4. So there you go. There's Danny, and yeah, we want to see more of you mums making these kind of videos, because there's not many of us out there doing it. And it's really encouraging to other mothers when you see this, because until I had seen, like, I think 1 or 2 other women on YouTube who extended breastfeeding and breastfed whilst they were pregnant and stuff like that. Until I'd seen that, I'd never seen it before. I'd never heard of it. The health visitors didn't suggest it. They weren't supportive of it. My doctor was actually very shocked when he found out with my first child, well, the first child that I was pregnant with when I continued breastfeeding. He was really shocked and surprised and asking me, like, why are you continuing to breastfeed? And I was so shocked that this is a doctor saying this to me. And so he's doing some nurse gymnastics. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you other mums, make videos like this, encourage other mums to make them, educate people and inform people about you know, nursing whilst pregnant, nursing toddlers, nursing in public, all these things, you know, creating awareness of this kind of thing, because here in the UK it's certainly not seen and not necessarily approved of. So yeah, anyway guys, this one's looking like he's going to go to sleep, so I will see you all for another video. See you later guys. Bye.